Hi, this is Adam Sutton from Sutton Business Velocity. I'd like to point you to my website, suttonbusinessvelocity.com, where you can learn more about the services my firm offers in support of your total reward strategy. I'd like to also point you to my YouTube channel, Total Rewards Expert Adam Sutton, where you can find Series 1, Series 2 have both been posted. We're right now in Series 3. This is Part 3. If you head back to Part 1 of Series 3, you'll get a recap of what it is we went through in Series 1 and Series 2. Long story short of this is we are testing to see how AI operates within two dimensions. Obviously, I don't have any three-dimensional AI chips or process to test here, but we're just going to look at AI in the two dimensions. And we know that technology is taking AI to three dimensions. Now the question becomes the fourth dimension, the layers of innate experience and inherent things that have created who you are as a human being over your years of experience, over my 25 plus years of experience and total rewards, of sitting in the rooms, having the discussions, understanding the circumstances, dealing with the stress, understanding when Excel doesn't cooperate. All of this assumes that Excel is always going to work for you. But Excel doesn't always work. So it's those kinds of things that I think really develop the character of the human being that creates what I'm calling this fourth dimension. And we're giving that a little bit of a whirl here in Series 3. So I'm excited about this. I think where we left off was with Claude. And what we had done is we introduced Claude to a scenario, and the scenario gave us, if I'm going to go back up here and give you a phased approach to doing this. Phase one was the expectation of what we're going to do. So it was the plan. Really like that AI gave time to creating a plan. This is super important. So many people are just quick executors. We just, especially in total rewards. Yes, if a person is committed to leaving your company for some other job, that's what they're going to do. It doesn't matter really what you say or do. And really, at the end of the day, money would be the only thing that would keep that person happy at the company. There's really just nothing else. But what we want to do here is understand from their perspective, this AI's perspective, what implementing this would actually mean. So this is where phase two, the structured recommendation. So this is what it would take to implement this. So they are recommending a tiered emergency market adjustment, not across the board, just DevOps. So I'm not okay with this. I don't make a recommendation without actually doing any analysis. Um, no, I just disagree with this. I am not going in with the predisposition that a whole bunch of market adjustments need to be made because one person left and another person is now talking about leaving. I'm just not going to do it. All right, tier one, critical retention. Target a couple. Good. I'm glad it's targeting a variety of different roles. Bring to market 60th or 65th, not 75th. We need headroom for future. Wow. We're just going to make the assumption that we're going to move the market. So I disagree with this. I believe in the compensation strategy. There is a philosophy that the rewards organization is going to apply to the organization, and maybe it subdivides into different parts of the organization, but it's something that it holds the pieces of this puzzle together. And it's that positioning to market. And that positioning to market helps define ultimately what the reference points are for the internal job. So I understand all of that piece, but by automatically positioning to the 60th or 65th, maybe that's not the company's philosophy. Maybe the company's philosophy is we always target the 50th percentile. And if we find that something is moving beyond the 50th percentile, we subject them to a hot jobs title or a flag or something that allows us to migrate from the existing philosophy that everyone else in the company is operating under. So I disagree with automatically targeting a different part of the market. I think that it's important to understand other underlying characteristics before you make a philosophical change as a reaction to a circumstance that you read in an email actually this morning. As a result of doing this, you now have 50 to 75 employees affected and $1 million in average cost. So I I don't like this. I am not I don't solve my problems by putting $1 million in front of the CEO and say this is how you fix the problem because somebody called up and said they have an offer and somebody else left yesterday. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know. I I now look at the implications of it. You have this open rec in non-critical areas freeze, and the next quarter's merit pool is going to be accelerated. Well, so you're totally changing the entire performance management process now. Your merit process follows performance management. So w- how are you going to implement it? There's a ripple here that goes way beyond the lens of what's going on in tier one, the critical retention piece. Tier two, complete tech job architecture refresh. Well, why isn't that done actually first? Why wouldn't you do that first? To me, I go back here and I say, no, do a targeted tech job architecture refresh. Why don't you go back to job architecture? Go back to these jobs. Make sure function, family, and area definitions make sense. Make sure that they still fit within the competency definition levels that you've created. Make sure that when you map this on the X and Y axis of job architecture, that this role is what you think it is. Because if it's not, then you can do the next piece of this, which is the refresh. Then you go back and do the analysis. Then you figure out, is there a need to make an adjustment? There's pieces of this that should be coming first before this tier one happens. Reset the career ladder. I do like this collapse inflated titles back to market standard leveling. I I don't like it when there's this process of allowing Wild Bill to go out and create titles all across the organization. Now, I understand a lot of companies have an infrastructure of titles that then they sort of back up into. So, I can call everybody 400 things, but at the end of the day, they're an admin. That's what we call them at the company. So I can understand that, and I understand in certain instances, sales, direct sales, areas where you're interacting externally. Sometimes there's a titling thing that needs to happen, and it doesn't resonate with the company. But I just I think that you really need to come back to this collapsed sense of titling. Not everybody needs to have a crazy title. It's just not necessary. Reset the clear ladder with clear criteria, which is an after effect of the job architecture refresh. I don't actually consider that to be a separate bullet. I would just do that. This will be a painful but necessary pre-IPO. Um, Yes. Job architecture should have been done pre-IPO anyway, because it would have given a better sense of what the current status of the employees are, and essentially where you're going to see post-IPO as a company starts to grow. Now you have all this money, you have this funding. What are you going to do with it? So what is that sort of next step, and how is that model going to work, and the ladder behind all of it? So tier three, ongoing post-adjustment quarterly market monitoring for hot rolls, which you should be doing anyway for any jobs that you've identified as a hot roll. There should be a quarterly market assessment. I know I've worked in some retail environments where minimum wages were changing so quickly that you had to, constantly go back and do assessments. So it's just something you need to do for jobs, not even ones that are just considered hot, if you throw air quotes around hot. I'm just talking really about any job that you consider to be something that needs a quarterly monitoring. You should flag those. Retention, equity, refresh using IPO equity strategically. Hmm. So We are 9 minutes and 45 seconds into this, and I understand the tears that are going into. What is missed? Uh, Nowhere in here did we assess anybody's competencies. Anybody. I mean, what if the person who's leaving is at the lowest level of competency development of this entire 50 to 75 employee affected group? Let's just assume that's right. What if they're in the bottom of the bell curve? I worked at Citibank at one time, Citigroup. It became Citigroup. And the businesses operated on a bell curve. And some of those businesses believed that at the bottom end of the bell curve, that like bottom 5%, 6%, 7%, 3%, it made sense for the business, they felt like that was the point at which you have to start saying to yourself, are you going to invest in their competency development to move them along the bell curve? Or is it time to cut those people loose because you've made that investment? The competencies are just not there. Those are employees that fall out on the bottom part of the curve, and it's time to reinvest them into maybe even different employees that will have the opportunity to draw from that investment and move along that competency development curve. So that was a philosophy back then. It was a continuous raising of the bar philosophy. It is very hardcore, especially in a financial services environment where, at the time when I was there, every single quarter mattered more than you could possibly even imagine. And I think it's extraordinarily important to contextualize how competencies fit in this and how understanding the utilization of market reference ranging comes into play here. If that employee is sitting at the bottom of their range and at the bottom of the competency level for that particular role in the job architecture structure, things are being done correctly, and you should allow that employee to leave. That is what you really should be doing. On the opposite end of that, if you found that the employee is at the upper part of the competency component and at the lower part of your reference range, the world should be your oyster. And that conversation with the CTO and the CFO should be a whole lot simpler to be able to have them understand. Let me direct you to the competencies that this employee has relative to others and the compensation that's been assigned relative to others. This is an internal equity problem that needs to be resolved amongst a few individuals and not necessarily a holistic approach here. I I think that there's a lot of ways to approach this that are significantly different and cover a different component of everything that's being said here, which is very reactionary. I got to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm going to cut it here. We're 13 minutes in. I'm a couple of minutes over, and we're going to head into learn a little bit more about this. I'm hoping that you're following along with me. I'm so interested to see how you feel and whether you agree or disagree if I'm on the right track with maybe some of the areas that are being missed in this assessment. Until part four, thanks so much for joining.